There's all kinds of reaction and reflection coming in after the death of Charlie Kirk. He was really one of the most influential political figures on the American right, without a doubt. Kirk founded Turning Point USA, an organization dedicated to rallying young conservatives. So he's only 18 years of age. He died at the age of 31 yesterday. Matt Schlapp, the chairman of CPAC, joining in on the conversation now. Welcome, Matt, as we continue, just for our viewers, to wait for any kind of an update on the manhunt for his killer from the authorities in Utah.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts today, Matt, on all of this and reflections on Charlie especially?
Well, unfortunately, I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I'm very melancholy about all of this. And I continue to think about his poor wife and his two young kids. And, you know, the dark place I think our country's in. I agree with much of what your previous guest had to say. I'm sad because since I was Charlie Kirk's age when he got started, when I was a young kid, I loved politics. I watched C-SPAN and I wanted to be involved, and I volunteered. And like a lot of young people across this country, I had an optimistic and idealistic view of the country and being involved in, at that time, Republican politics. Over time, I morphed to be more of a conservative, less of a Republican. And, you know, we can't stay in the place we're in for much longer without a lot of violence or people coming back to their senses.
You know, it's really interesting to me. I'm still trying to kind of wrap my own head around it because we just had the conversation. We were talking about like social media and, you know, all the negative impacts it's had and all of that. And I understand that and I agree with a lot of it. But the same time, you think about Charlie Kirk's influence. And I said to someone earlier, I thought I knew or understood his influence in the conservative movement among young people. But then when you talk to actual young people, I think I probably underestimated it, if anything. And a lot of that was social media. TikTok, and he was huge on social media. So it's both. I mean, he had a way of using that to engage people. I guess there's people on the left maybe that do it as well, but like I don't know what you make of that or how you put that together, the positive force it can be for conversation versus the pitfalls of all this.
Yeah, I think that Charlie Kirk, it's almost too limiting to say he had an impact on young people. He actually had an impact on really all ages. You know, I'm very ingrained in this movement, and I think people of all ages just loved the fact that there was a younger person who didn't go to college who was taking on these what we consider woke leftist institutions and calling them out on their own hypocrisy that free speech wasn't alive and well on those campuses. As a matter of fact, if you were a Jewish student on our most elite campuses, you felt threatened. And that's just one little aspect of the lack of free speech and academic freedom on our college campuses. And he didn't go to college. He wasn't an academic. He wasn't a part of that whole game, but he was plenty smart and intellectual himself. And he took him on and he did a great job. But I think what people mostly admired about him was just the moxie of a young guy taking on people that he wasn't supposed to be in the same league with and owning them. And it was a real honor to know him. I knew him since he was very young.
Yeah, and he was, oh God, he was too young when he died, 31. I mean, just only 31 is really unbelievable, considering how long he'd been in the public spotlight. You know, you were kind of mentioning in passing your own kind of political, you know, evolution or whatever you want to call it, from Republican to more identifying as conservative. But you worked in the Bush White House, and today's 9/11, right? So we were talking earlier about that and this feeling, you know, I mentioned it, someone else mentioned it on September 12th, of unity in this country and the coming together. And now everybody's saying, yeah, we got to cut out the political violence and try to come together. So I do wonder what your own kind of reflections on 9/11 and how you kind of put those together with what we're talking about with Charlie Kirk.
Well, my wife, Mercy, and I ran out of the White House on 9/11. It was a searing day for all of us in our country. It was a terrible day. I think President Bush provided tremendous leadership on that day. We came together as a country. And it's sad to fast forward, I think, to see how much division we have as Republicans and how much division we have as a country. I have been a little heartened today by some Democratic voices, you know, I think doing the responsible thing of calling out the violence. And I think everybody has finally realized that this is not a game. This is serious as hell. And, you know, I have little kids. I've raised 5 daughters with Mercy, and you know, it was one thing to be involved in politics when we first started having those kids. It is a treacherous thing to be trying to raise kids as a Trump supporter in Washington, D.C. It is a very dangerous thing. And so that has to end in this country. Washington, D.C. used to be a place that politically it was safe for people
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.